What, you mean a string of nonsensical emojis? Fire, sword, donut, spaceman, clock, dancing lady, flashlight, thumbs up. How am I supposed to know what that means?
I ignited the flaming sword, used it to cut a hole in space and time. Mum's light flooded through it, then it closed up behind her. All good.
Oswald, my friend!
Bruce Wayne, what a lovely surprise. You certainly are getting out quite a lot these days, aren't you?
The way I see it, everyone else in this town is having fun. Why shouldn't I?
I agree. You and your insanely large bank account are more than welcome here.
We're gonna need you to shrink, Ray Ray.
I'm not particularly fond of that name.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Fandom Zone podcast. Doing things a little differently today. Episode 120. Hard to believe it's episode 120 already. For the week ending October 28th, 2017. Almost here at the end of the year already. We got our first bit of snow here in Ohio this past weekend. So, but Karen is unavailable. She's down in sunny old Florida while I'm up here freezing my butt off in Ohio. And but thankfully, we have someone eminently qualified to fill her place this week, especially requested by Karen, no less. The return of none other than Lola Lariscy, the old Scannerdrome live tweeter herself. And welcome back, Lola, to the Phantom Zone podcast. Yay!
Thank you. It's been a while, and I'm very happy to be back. I remember I had a wonderful time when I was here last time.
Yes, and it's been far too long since you've been back, so we're glad you're back.
And y'all talk about my favorite shows, because when I'm on Scannerdrome and I try to talk about CW shows, there's always an eye roll.
Really?
Actually, several eye rolls.
Are they getting a little snooty over there on Scannerdrome? Like, this CW shows, how ghastly.
It's kids shows. I don't want to see Flash running around. It's just like a kid. It's too soapy. It's too dramatic. It's too romantic. It's too blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, whatever, okay? Just snooty people.
God forbid you have fun watching a TV show. Go figure. I
know. God forbid, it have awesome special effects for a freaking TV show on a lower budget than some of the, mainstream shows.
Right.
So, yeah. Yeah, so I usually get an eye roll when I try to talk about those shows. So I'm in my wheelhouse. I am talking with someone who loves these shows as much as I do.
We welcome you back into the fold, Lola. You're always welcome here. And as you can see by the comic books behind me, I understand you.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. So you are among friends here at the Phantom Zone podcast, as always. So obviously we've got a big week, lots of shows to talk about, and unfortunately we have just so many shows, so we can't really spend a lot of time on them. But we're going to try and get through them reasonably efficiently. And so why don't we go ahead and get started? Enough of me rambling on. And first show I want to talk about this week is The Walking Dead. It was the season premiere for Season 8. Hard to believe it's Season 8 already. And this is the episode Mercy, written by Scott M. Gimple and directed by Greg Nicotero, two of the Walking Dead showrunners. And I'm dying to know, I don't know, are you a big Walking Dead fan, Lola?
Well, I am, but I have a caveat. Okay. I roll at it a lot.
All right, bring out the caveat.
I will eye roll at it. I mean, I still watch it.
Yeah.
But I'm not afraid to say if I think it's getting slow or repetitive.
Which it often does, I will grant you.
Yeah, last year it was pretty slow and repetitive. I'm like, all right, let's do this thing. Negan's been around for a while. Let's just do it. What are we waiting for? A lot of talking and no action.
Yeah.
So I'm really hoping. They keep saying it's going to get back on track and get a little tighter, so I really hope it does.
So we had a little more Talking Dead than Walking Dead is what you're saying.
I would say so.
Yeah, okay, I get you. And I think those criticisms are totally fair with this show, because it always, it starts off great, but then we have that lag in the middle, and then things kind of build up again toward the finale. So it's almost like you can just watch the beginning and end of the season and pretty much kind of follow along.
Yeah.
But here we are again at the beginning of the season, and as we're entering all-out war, as Rick and Team Rick takes it to Team Negan.
Woohoo!
Yeah, at last, and we actually have a little gunplay going on between the groups with some interesting developments. So, so what did you think of this premiere episode, Lola?
It had a lot of really good action. I really loved the gunfire, the explosions, and all that stuff. A little perplexed about old man Rick. I'm guessing
Right.
there's a plan there. Not sure what's going on. Of course, there's a lot of, laughter because Michonne looked exactly the same.
Right. Well, she had a little bit of streaks in her dreadlocks, a little bit, but yeah, little streaks of gray.
Yeah, but he looked like he was about 70, so
Yeah.
I don't know what was going on with that.
Yeah, they kind of talked about that on the Talking Dead after show, where I think Denai Guerrera, who plays Michonne, she said, and it was black don't crack, and I thought it was perfectly delivered on during that. I just thought it was hilarious the way she said that. She had that little smile on her face, and like.
Well, she's right. She looked fabulous.
Yeah,
They didn't do anything. I mean, it seemed like they didn't do anything to age her up. I guess maybe they're trying to say she's immortal.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Rick looks like he turned into what's his name? I can't remember. Maggie's father.
Oh, Herschel.
Herschel, thank you. I can't believe I was blanking on that. Yeah, you looked like he was almost turning into Herschel there, with his big Santa Claus beard and the kind of pulled back gray hair. Yeah, that was an interesting sequence. I'm kind of wondering if they're teasing, this is just Rick kind of fantasizing a little bit about his, like, maybe growing old with Michonne and what that would be like. And I'm worried that this is going to set up something ominous that's going to completely destroy his plans for the future.
I hope not. Well, they did come out and say, I can't remember how you are on, like, if there's, it's not really a spoiler, but if the showrunners say something about the future, are you okay if I say it?
Oh yeah, go ahead. Go right ahead.
All right. Well, they came out and said that Rick won't live. He will die at some point.
Right.
They said that.
Well,
of course, they say a lot of stuff.
He has been on the show 8 seasons now, so I kind of wonder if, like, he and Daryl have to be on, Norman Reedus have to be on borrowed time at this point.
I would think so. I think they haven't killed Norman Reedus's character because I think they know a lot of women would riot.
Right.
They threatened that on Twitter.
Yeah, my wife would be the same way. Yeah. She is huge. She is quite the Daryl fan. So yeah, she would be like, if they kill Daryl, we riot. Definitely.
I think so. I think there would be violence. I mean, I really do. I'm not exaggerating. I really think there would be violence. So I think they're just like, okay, honey bunnies, we're gonna keep Daryl for a little while. They're not gonna touch that.
Yeah, no. Maybe they'll just give him a, like, I'm driving my bike off into the distance. Maybe someday I'll be back, so they can.
That's okay. Well, and then he rides back, huh?
Yeah, just don't kill him off totally.
Don't kill him off.
Yeah.
I think my washing machine's dying.
That's okay.
But yeah, the only thing I'm concerned about, I think if they killed Judith, I would just be done. I would be over it. I would have to stop watching because that's been like the whole thing for the whole show. It's like, keep the baby safe. Just keep the baby safe. And if something happened to that child, I think I would just be done.
Well, my theory about what's going to happen is that I think Michonne is going to take the place of Andrea in the comics.
She kind of has already.
Yeah, exactly. Because in the comics, Rick and Andrea hook up. Mm-hmm. And then until Andrea is killed during a skirmish with Negan. So I'm dreading that Michonne is going to take the place of Andrea, especially with Denai Guerrera certainly building that movie career because of she's going to be in Black Panther. Yep. So I don't know. It makes me, because I don't want to lose Michonne either. I love Michonne. Yeah.
She's such a strong force.
Yeah,
she's such a great character. I don't know. It's like they're killing the great characters. Don't do it.
Yeah, I know. I know. I'm hoping I'm wrong, but yeah, I'm thinking like episode 8. There'll be something like that, or unless it's in the season finale sometime next year that happens. I'm hoping I'm wrong though.
I hope so.
So, what did you think of the sequence where Father Gabriel pulls Rick out of the fray because Rick is just like, I gotta get Negan, and Father Gabriel's just like, dude, we talked about this is the plan. Come on, come back, and kind of reeled Rick in a little bit.
Gabriel, I don't know what to think about him. Sometimes I think there's some people who think he's made a secret deal with Negan.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think he's, not working for the team. He has some sort of ulterior motive. But then sometimes he does something really good, like really morally sound, like
Right.
what was it? He saved the jerky jerk.
Yeah,
Xander
yeah. He saved Gregory, played by Xander Berkeley. Yeah, so yeah, and that would seem like a pretty selfless act. But of
Yeah.
course, being Gregory, Gregory has to essentially throw Father Gabriel under the bus, almost literally, by taking his ride and bailing out of there. And
What a
and then Father
jerky
Gabriel
jerk.
has to hold up in this trailer or something where Negan is at the end of the episode. And I like the fact that the way they did that was that they did this overhead shot as the walkers kind of surround them. And it reminded me a lot of the end of the Walking Dead pilot, where like Rick's holed up in that tank in the middle of Atlanta,
Yes.
and
Yes.
and then Glenn calls in over the radio to tell him what a dummy he is.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, dumbass, and so it just kind of that, and then they did that overhead shot at the end of the pilot, so it kind of reminded me of that. I thought it was because this was episode 100 of The Walking
Oh,
Dead,
yeah.
and so there was a lot of homages in that. And I'm just wondering if that was one of them.
It may have been. I didn't think about it.
Yep. So I thought that was interesting, and then yeah, we had like a lot of different scenes that we weren't quite sure what was going on. That we had the scene of Rick with Carl. They encounter like this. I'm guessing he's a Muslim survivor. Named
Yes, the
Sadiq.
new guy.
Yeah, I think he's a
Yeah.
new guy, and he's like scavenging for gas or something, or they're out scavenging for gas, and they encounter him. But Rick kind of tries to like shoo him off because he's concerned that he might be a spy for Negan. And Carl's just like, "Hey, we need to help this guy out."
Carl's like, I haven't lost all my humanity yet, Dad.
Yeah, pretty much, which is kind of surprising considering.
Considering he's the one who wants to shoot people all the time.
Yeah, pretty much. But apparently, but Carl seems to be better suited for this zombie apocalypse than Rick is at times, I think.
I think so. Yeah, Rick is just he's so bitter at this point and just so jaded.
Yeah.
And Carl still has a little bit of the innocence in him, the kid who wants to help.
Yeah, let's hope that doesn't change.
I hope.
Yeah.
I hope not.
Even though it seems to be taking more and more body parts off of him every time we turn around.
Oh, I wish it'd take some of his hair because I'm tired of his hair.
I am too. It's like,
What's your dang hair?
yeah.
I mean, he could
Just
be
a-
in like
just a
an
little
herbal essence commercial, huh?
Yes. I mean, he's almost like he's got like the Farrah Fawcett look from the 70s.
No, it's too pretty. I mean, if a guy's gonna have long hair like that, it needs to be like dirty and grungy like Daryl's. But Carl's hair is just wavy and pretty, and it's like, look at me.
Yep.
And it's like, no, kid, no, cut your hair.
Well, we have to lure in those teenage girls to the show, I guess.
I guess he's gonna be on the cover of Tiger Beat or whatever.
That wouldn't surprise me.
Mm-hmm. I actually saw a Tiger Beat the other day, so I know it's still in existence.
Carl's greatest secrets, or
I know.
the
He has his eye on you. Sorry.
yeah, exactly. All right, that's pretty funny. All right, anything else about this episode before we move on?
I think it was overly long. I really think they should have compacted it.
Okay. All right. Now we normally do like the like 1 to 10 out of 10 type ratings here in the Phantom Zone. So I gave this one. I actually kind of liked it. I liked the fact that there was some developments and and teasing some things. I'm just glad to see them finally going after Negan after all this time. So I gave it 9 out of 10 Polaroid photographs.
Okay.
That's my rating.
I didn't think about thinking up a clever thing.
That's okay. You don't have to think up a clever thing.
I'm
You're off the hook.
I'm too tired to be clever. I'm too tired to be clever.
That's okay. You've got a lot on your plate, as we talked about offline. So, yeah.
So I'm giving myself a pass, but I will give it 8, only because I did think it was too long. I think it could have been a regular hour-long episode.
Right, but I think to be fair though, it was the 100th episode, so they were trying to make it a little special. I think.
Yeah, I guess.
Maybe, but yeah, I see your point. So I totally agree. All right, so let's move on to Lucifer.
Okay.
Episode 4 of the 3rd season. What would Lucifer do?
Mm-hmm.
And this is written by Jason Ning and directed by Karen and my favorite director, just because of his name, Eagle Eagleson.
Oh, what a great name!
Isn't that the best? Isn't that the best name ever? My name is Eagle Eagleson.
I want that name.
That's such a masculine name, Eagle Eagleson.
Well, it sounds like
I get Charles Skaggs, and he gets Eagle Eagleson. That's not fair.
Well, just take a trip to the judge and change it. You could be Skaggs Skaggleson. How about that?
I think that might actually be worse, but maybe.
Skaggs Skaggleson.
Yeah, but gotta admit, Eagle Eagleson is a pretty badass name.
That is cool.
All right, so this episode is essentially we have Amenadiel, and I'm not sure how big on Lucifer you are. I think you've been watching Lucifer. Yeah, you do. I thought so. So Amenadiel in this episode, he's finally kind of trying to get a handle on why he's there with Lucifer, what his purpose is. And so he's trying to get a handle on Lucifer, and to do that, he feels like he was advised that maybe you should walk in Lucifer's shoes a little bit. So he tries to do that, and he goes to Lucifer, who immediately proposes a wardrobe change because damn, and he says, "Okay, here's all of my social media access." So it's now he's like, okay, and he suggests, well, just Amenadiel, just kind of act like, what would I do in the situation? What would Lucifer do?
WWLD.
Hashtag WWLD. Yes. And I thought that was a really funny premise. And I like seeing Amenadiel at the bar trying to act all confident and cocksure.
What did he say? It was something like, we will be in bed later, or just something just really ridiculous.
Right, yeah, so I'll see you two later, or see you later in my bed, right? Or something like that, yeah.
And they were like...
Yeah, and then you immediately hear crickets in the background.
It was hilarious. I was like, no, just you be you, Emilio. And I can't even say his name, but you be you. Amen. We'll just call him that. You be you.
Yeah, exactly. It was and this is what, pretty much this. The big fail music for Amenadiel. Yeah, so so that was good. So we also had Chloe, who was essentially trying to figure out her boss, Lieutenant Pierce, played of course by Tom Welling from Smallville.
So perfect. Oh, he's so stoic. I'm like, how are you so stoic? It's awesome.
Well, it might be because Tom Welling's not that great of an actor.
Well, and actually, he kind of came off as a douchebag. I read an article. I don't remember where.
Yeah.
But the reporter was telling Tom Welling, oh, you look the same except for you have a little bit of gray in your hair. And he just said, the gray is put on for the show.
So completely humorless.
Yeah, completely humorless. I was like, maybe that's just him.
Yeah, I hope not. I'd like to think it was just a nice, easygoing guy, but maybe not.
Well, maybe not. Maybe it's just like that.
Yeah,
I don't like you.
Yeah, but so yeah. Obviously, she feels awkward around Pierce, and she goes to him asking to see if she could get this union rep job. But he immediately turns her down, which just infuriates her even more until she finds out later in the episode when he tells her, "Hey, you're one of my best detectives," that the union rep job is for cops whose careers are going nowhere.
Oh, interesting.
And then of course he ends up giving Dan the union rep job.
Oh, see, I must have been tweeting or passed out at this point because I don't remember that. That's awesome. I probably took a short nap because that is awesome.
Enjoying a little too much whiskey, what are we? Or
Probably. Or just passed out.
Yeah.
Probably just asleep.
Yep. No, you've been pretty busy lately, so it wouldn't be surprising. But yeah, so that's what happened was that Dan got stuck with the union rep job because apparently Pierce views Dan as a dead end cop.
Well, Pierce hates Dan because remember what Pierce said? He said, "Aren't you the dirty cop who got away with whatever?" So he hates Dan.
Right. Well, to be fair, yeah, Dan really shouldn't be working with the police department after that. He really shouldn't. So, and Pierce probably recognizes this, but apparently he thinks pretty highly of Chloe, which comes out during the course of the episode, because at one point he actually takes a bullet for her and ends up in the hospital, so he saves her from getting shot. And Lucifer finds out about that this criminal, Jerry, almost killed Chloe, and of course he's not very happy about that. Mm-hmm. And goes after Jerry, and essentially Amenadiel has to remind Lucifer that, hey, you're the guy who punishes evil, but you're not evil itself.
Which is true. That's one of the things I like about Lucifer. They actually don't have Lucifer himself being evil. He's doing a job.
Right.
It's kind of like he's the janitor. He's cleaning up people's bad souls. So it's kind of like that's how I feel like I feel safe in liking him. Unlike Supernatural, which I also love, where Lucifer is a nasty, nasty person.
Right.
In the TV show Lucifer, I'm able to like him because he's a cad and he's a womanizer, but he is not a bad person.
Right. And he's capable of something more than just being, "Ooh, I'm the devil, boo ha 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 ha." Yeah.
Although he's pretty upset that he doesn't have his devil eyes anymore.
Yes, and he can't get rid of those angel wings for some mysterious reason.
And Amenadiel is so jealous, huh?
Oh, I'm just going to say, I'm sure that Amenadiel and Dr. Linda are happy that he stopped cutting them off because, hey, they made such a big deal about those wings being, so holy that, it wasn't a good idea for people to get their hands on them. And here he is just cutting them off and leaving them around the apartment.
They're going to be everywhere. Yeah. They're going to get in the sewer water. In the drinking water. And everyone's going to be like, "Oh, I'm supercharged angel, supercharged."
Exactly. So thankfully that stopped. So we had... I guess Amenadiel eventually comes to Lucifer later in the episode. Says he found Lucifer using this location service on the dating app. And Lucifer seems to be like, he's kind of losing it a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I guess Amenadiel thinks that Lucifer was trying to punish himself for not being there for Chloe. Mm-hmm. And that because he wasn't there, that she almost was killed. So he has to kind of like, just that, just kind of like, regardless, like, look, I'm here for you. You don't have to worry about, you don't have to feel like you don't need to be, just go off on this rage like that. So. But I thought that was interesting. And then we had Chloe kind of going to see Pierce in the hospital. And she thanks him for saving her life. And they end up talking about her past injuries because, remember, she was shot back in season 1.
Yeah.
So they kind of bond over that a little bit. And this is where he ends up calling her his best detective. So are romantic sparks in the air for Chloe and Pierce?
I think so. Well, he made the point that he hasn't been snogged in a long, long time.
That's true.
Didn't he say something happened to his wife or something?
Yeah, something like that. He was very vague about that. So obviously there's a story there that has yet to be told. But and of course the big comedic moment in this episode where Lucifer ends up going to this camp for ne'er-do-well kids and essentially helps them, try to help them run a very efficient marijuana growing operation, which was pretty hilarious. Although one of this girl named I forget her name. I think it was Carly or something, but she ends up apparently she's like almost like a prodigy when it comes to this sort of thing, and she's kind of almost like already ahead of him on this. So he's got almost like it's almost like a mentorship toward her, which I thought was pretty funny.
She has good business acumen.
Exactly. So, and then of course he ends up smoking a lot of this stuff and gets himself high and drunk, and and he kind of ends up going off on one guy in the interrogation room, and kind of loses his cool a little bit. So he just seems like he's becoming a little unhinged to me. I don't know
I think he has
what are
been
your
for a
thoughts?
long time.
Yeah,
he has been for a long time. Ever since he pushed his mother into the alternate universe.
right.
And ever since, he feels like his father is messing with him, basically.
Yeah.
Which to me is very narcissistic. That God is his only purpose is to mess with Lucifer.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's been extremely paranoid and just a very dramatic and unreliable.
Right. Right. Yeah. Because I think he's been off by himself too much. Chloe hasn't been around as often. So yeah, he doesn't really have that moderating influence, and Amenadiel is just not enough to kind of keep him in control.
Well, and Amenadiel.
Yeah.
I love Amenadiel, but I think Amenadiel, it probably, if their father is trying to teach anyone anything,
Yeah.
I think he's trying to teach Amenadiel that he's not the moral guy that he thinks he is. He's almost as petty as Lucifer.
Right.
Because, I mean, he's so jealous of Lucifer, and he's always trying to compete with him.
Yeah.
And he's very envious of the wings and everything.
So do you think God's plan in this, is to get Amenadiel to stop being so envious of Lucifer?
I hope so. I think that must be it, because that's the only reason I could think that Amenadiel would be there. Amenadiel thinks he's just like babysitting and that there's no point in him being there. But
Right.
I think the point is that he's supposed to focus less on his brother and more on himself.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see where that goes, especially with the return of Charlotte next week.
Yes, that's going to be interesting.
Yeah, that will be
Now,
interesting.
is that going to be Charlotte the human or
I'm thinking Charlotte
the
the
daughter?
human. I'm thinking Charlotte the
Okay.
human. But we'll see if there's more going on than that.
Okay.
Okay. So anything else about this episode before we move on?
I think I must have fallen asleep because some of it I don't remember.
That's all right. No problem.
Nothing against Lucifer. I've just been very tired.
Exactly. It's nothing against the show. So I give this one 8 out of 10 marijuana leaves for obvious reasons.
I like that.
But I enjoyed this quite a bit. Not my favorite episode. No, I didn't like it as much as the Mazikeen spotlight here last week.
Yes, I love the maze one.
That was a great.
to
That was a great episode. I like that one. But this one was okay. All right, so let's move on to our next show, The Gifted, episode 4 of the first season, Exit Strategy. And because every title has to have an X in it, because X-Men. Written by Meredith Lavender and Marcy Ulin, directed by Karen Gaviola. And this is essentially we're finally going to break Polaris out of mutant prison episode.
Yeah.
Where we have first, before I get into that, what are you thinking about The Gifted so far, 4 episodes in?
I like it. The funny thing is, it's kind of become my mom and mine's thing.
Yeah.
I've been staying a lot because my mom has been in the hospital.
Yeah.
I've been staying with her on the weekends, and I usually stay until like Tuesday. And so our thing Monday night is she gets to watch The Voice at 8,
Right.
and I get to watch The Gifted at 9.
Very nice. So that's a nice compromise.
It is a nice compromise. And it's really funny because my mother, she's just looking at the screen and she'll say, they need to get out of there. And I'm like, yes, mother, I think that's what they're trying to do. And she'll be like, that person has a lot of power. Yes, Mama, they do. So it's really funny. I love it for that. I mean, on its own,
Yeah.
I think I like it better than Inhumans, but I think it's maybe not.
It's a better show than Inhumans, let's be honest.
It's way better than Inhumans.
Yeah.
So if I tried to compare The Gifted to other superhero shows, I would say it's one of my lesser favorites. But I do like it, and it has a special place in my heart because my mom and I watch it together.
That's awesome. That's good. You and your mom watching The Gifted sounds a lot like me and my mom watching Game of Thrones.
Oh, yeah. My mom would not watch Game of Thrones. She would just have a heart.
My mom is just like, she needs to know how everything plays out. Like she doesn't want to wait for answers. So yeah, it drives her crazy. She's like, does so and so die? Does Daenerys die? Stuff like that. So
just say yes.
Yes, yeah. I tried that, and yeah, my wife Lori kind of looks at me, glares at me. She's like, no, she doesn't die.
That's just yet.
Yeah.
Don't know what's gonna happen.
Yeah, we'll see. But as far as The Gifted goes, yeah. So this is they finally get Polaris out of mutant prison. Thunderbird, John Proudstar, kind of rallies everybody together that's still around, and they come up with a plan to attack Sentinel Services, and because they find out that apparently there's going to be a transfer convoy, and so they decide to hit the convoy, but they need to know the route that the convoy is taking. So they get Eclipse, who feels that, hey, I have connections, and I could contact the cartel he used to work for to get this information. So he goes back to the cartel, but hey, he's not welcomed very well, because it turns out that Eclipse used to date a woman named Carmen. And apparently it was a pretty bad breakup, because he goes there looking for her father, but find out that she's in charge now.
Yeah.
Which is a little awkward. And so in exchange for a favor, he agrees to be Carmen's friend, in air quotes, and ends up interrogating this guy for her who stole drugs from the cartel. And so he gets the guy to give up that information that they want. So Carmen agrees to give Eclipse the information he wants in return. And so we're kind of curious about if this is going to play into things a little later on, especially now that by the end of the episode, Polaris and Eclipse are reunited. But what if Carmen's kind of off in the wings, waiting to complicate things a little bit? So what's your thoughts on that?
Funny thing, well, the parts with them, my favorite parts are with Amy Acker's character and
Caitlin,
Vampire Bill.
Yeah, from the True Blood,
kids. And those are my favorite parts. And maybe it's just me, but when they're doing the Polaris stuff and all that stuff, sometimes I start to glaze over a little bit.
Okay, so you kind of tune that out.
Yeah, I tweeted, when I tweet as @Scannerdrome.
Right.
And I tweeted, I was like, where's Amy Acker? that was like my big thought. I was like, where's Amy Acker?
All right. So with that in mind then, okay. So, well then, why don't we shift gears then to Lorne and Andy. Mm-hmm. Now, over the past couple episodes, it seems like Andy's taking a little bit of a dark turn as he's getting more control over his telekinesis, and they're trying to figure out how to stop the bus once they get the location of where it's going to be that's holding Polaris. So they come up with it. Andy says, well, hey, I can destroy a wheel on the bus. but I'm not sure. I might risk destroying everybody inside the bus because he doesn't have as much control over his telekinesis. So Lauren suggests that she could use her power to contain Andy's. So here, the first time we have them working together, and they kind of test out on a lamppost, and it works. So then they take that to Thunderbird and go, "Hey, see what we can do." And with Caitlin's eventual agreeing that they'll try to stay out of the way, she goes along with it because she knows she's desperate to get Reed back. So we have the two of them, Lauren and Andy, kind of working together. And one of my running theories about these two is that their last name is Strucker. Now, in the comic books, in Marvel Comics, there is a big bad supervillain called Baron Strucker, and who has he's a member of Hydra.
Oh no!
But he has some mutant children by the name of Andrea and Andreas Strucker. So I'm kind of wondering if Andy is short for Andreas, and I'm kind of wondering if instead of Strucker's children, they're kind of Strucker's grandchildren.
So you think Vampire Bill's father is the bad Strucker?
Is maybe Baron Strucker, yeah. So I'm kind of wondering if, that something's going on there, and that they're teasing because in the comics the Strucker twins end up becoming this superpowered duo called Fenrir. And they're kind of basically evil mutants that fight the X-Men. So I'm kind of wondering if maybe Lauren and Andy are kind of destined for the dark side.
See, I guess it could be like very Star Wars like, where the person you like is actually dark.
Right.
But I think, to me, this comes off as more of a family show, and I find it hard to believe that they would make two of the main characters be evil.
Right. Well, they might start off with just Andy going dark, because if you notice, Andy's had some issues ever since, because he's been bullied and treated like an outsider so long, and he seems very quick to, he seems like he's talking a lot like Magneto in the X-Men movies.
That's what I was thinking. Bad like Magneto, where you understand why he's doing it, but you don't like his methods.
Right. He seems like he's basically been reading the Magneto manifesto, and he's all mutant proud. And so I'm kind of curious to see if he'll start down the dark path. Now, whether he takes his sister with him, I don't know. But I think it's just something to kind of keep an eye on.
I actually like that. I think that would be a good arc for him, because right now, I do like the show, but I do feel like the character's a little cookie cutter.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I can't remember anyone's name, so I say Vampire Bill and Amy Acker. So
right, that's fine.
Yeah, I feel like they're a little not developed.
Yeah.
And so if they could do something like that with the son, then that might help develop him as a character.
Yeah.
He could come full circle, like an arc, like going to the dark side and then coming back.
Right. I keep hoping that somehow Anna Paquin will make an appearance on this show as Rogue.
I hope
because
so.
Remember Stephen Moyer?
They're married.
They're married, yeah. So
you
wouldn't it be?
Blew my mind.
I blew your mind.
Dude, it's totally blown. I didn't even make that connection.
Yep.
My
so she
God.
played Rogue in the X-Men movie. So wouldn't it be awesome if she did a cameo on one of the episodes or something?
That would be totally cool. I would love that.
Yeah, I would too. I think that would be great. And it's kind of ironic because he was a mutant hunter, a mutant prosecutor.
Yeah.
And now
his kids.
Yeah, now he's kids. So we'll see. But yeah, so we'll see where that goes. But I think it's just something to keep an eye on, especially Andy, because he was very comfortable with the idea of trashing parking meters to get some money last week.
That is true. Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see where it goes. But anything else that stood out for you about this episode?
A good amount of action, which I like in small doses, but I just wish they had a little more character development.
Right. Well, we're 4 episodes in, so hopefully
that's correct.
They seem to be starting off pretty strongly, though, considering.
Yeah.
So we'll see. They're obviously stronger out of the gate than Inhumans is.
Oh, I haven't. I watched half of the first episode and I was like, no, I'm not doing this.
Yeah. We reviewed like the first few episodes here in the Phantom Zone, and then we're like, well, maybe we'll pick up and do the finale, and that's it. So it's hashtag Scott Buck sucks.
Yeah.
The showrunner. So, but yeah, and then yeah, there was a pretty gruesome moment, of course, in this episode where Polaris has to kind of rip the metal screw out of Reed's knee to help her escape.
Not fun.
So that was pretty rough, but that was interesting. And she uses that against the guard so that she can escape from inside the truck. So with that in mind, I gave this episode 8.5 metal knee screws. I enjoyed this one quite a bit, and always great to see. I like that. I mean, for using the kind of like lesser mutant characters that the show is, I think they're doing a really good job of it so far.
I do too, and I like that they're not trying to be the X-Men.
Right.
I mean, one of the things that I don't always like about the ABC Marvel shows is that they're always trying to throw the movies in there, like, oh look, did you see the Hulk? Or and there's always
they make a reference to one of the shows one of the movies that's coming up. Like it's a promotional tool. Yeah.
Exactly, and I don't like that. It feels cheap. But as far as but the Gifted hasn't done that as far as I can see. I may have missed some stuff, but I don't see them doing it. They're standing on their own feet.
Well, Fox, 20th Century Fox has the rights to the X-Men movies.
Okay.
So they're handling it a little bit different than Disney, which has the rights to the other characters.
That's correct.
Yeah, because it's like, like Sony has Spider-Man, but Fox has the X-Men characters.
Yeah. So, and that's good that they're not using that. I could see them being all like synergy and like, oh, let's try to, sell them both. But
yeah, I don't see a lot of corporate, synergy with this, which is a good thing. Yeah. And I noticed that they were kind of the same way with this show Legion on FX. Which I was a big Legion fan.
I love Legion.
Legion is so good. I can't wait for that show to come back in February, hopefully.
I love that show.
Yeah, it's great.
I love that show so much. Like I would sit down on the floor in front of the TV like when I was a kid, like I was watching cartoons.
Right.
That's how much I love Legion. I would be like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen next? Oh, this is so cool. I love this so much. I can't believe that's the guy from Downton Abbey.
Yeah, yeah. You should go back and listen to our Phantom Zone episodes. We just raved about Legion so hard. It was like our favorite show last year, or this past year, I should say. Yeah. So I thought it got totally robbed at the Emmys, in my personal opinion.
I know.
But all right, that's a different rant. So
yeah.
All right, so let's move on. Next show, Supergirl, episode 3 of the 3rd season. Far from the Tree, written by Jessica Keller and Derek Simon, directed by Dermot Downs.
I'm not crying. You're crying.
Yeah, exactly.
Damn you, Tony from 24. You're such a dog. Why can't you just love your daughter?
Yeah. Oh, is that who that was? Is that who it was playing Maggie's daughter, or Maggie's father, rather?
Yeah, the actor's name is Carlos Bernard, but in 24 he was Tony Almeida.
Oh, okay. I thought he looked a little familiar.
Yeah, he's a little grayer, but yep, that's him.
Yep. Aren't we all? So this episode has two notable storylines this week. We have Alex and Maggie's bridal shower.
Yay! Super cute.
Which is great. And we have a lot of great character moments. And then we also have Kara going along with Jean, picking up from the cliffhanger from last week, where they have to go to meet Magan Moores, a.k.a. Miss Martian.
And to meet the guy from Alias.
Carl Lumbly. Now, a little inside information here. Carl Lumbly voiced the Martian Manhunter on the Justice League animated series.
I did not know that.
So I think this is why they decided to make him the father of the Martian Manhunter here, who he plays a character called Mirren, and who is Jean's father. But I thought it was great that, hey, they got Carl Lumbly, the guy who did the voice for Jean in Justice League, to be
I
his
see
father.
that.
So I thought
That makes sense.
Supergirl has a really good job of that because, I mean, they've brought in, obviously, Dean Cain and Helen Slater to be Supergirl's adoptive parents, the Danvers.
Yeah.
And, so they'd like to do these. And they brought in, of course,
And Linda Carter.
and Terry Hatcher. So, yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So they're great with that. So I was glad to see. And I like Carl Lumley anyway. I've liked him since The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai. But I loved him as on Alias.
What was his name?
Dixon.
Started with a D. Dixon, that's right.
Yeah, Dixon. So
that's what I know him from. That's the first time I actually really registered him.
Yeah, I was a big Alias geek back in the day, so yeah, I love that show.
Love that.
Of course, that's the show that gave us Victor Garber, so that's big points there.
Legends of Tomorrow.
Legends of Tomorrow. Although not for too much longer because he's leaving the series.
I know, and I guess we'll get to that later.
Because I think he's going back to Broadway or something.
He is, which I don't blame him for. That's his first. I get it.
Yeah, I get it too. Can't find
but before we move on, Erica Durant's also. Erica Durant's in it now.
Yeah, so she played Lois Lane on Smallville. So, hey, Tom Welling, why don't you stop, playing with Lucifer and come on over to Supergirl? We've been waiting.
Yeah.
Waiting for a Tom Welling appearance, but at least we have Erica Durant now too. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I totally forgot about that. But she's the new Allura this season.
Yeah,
she's taking over the role. So, Maggie and Alex's bridal shower. It starts off with Alex trying to encourage Maggie to invite her father. And this is the same father who essentially kicked Maggie to the curb once he found out that she was gay. And it didn't go over very well. There's obviously a lot of understandable resentment there. But eventually Maggie starts feeling a little guilty about it. So she tries to invite her father. And she actually finds out later that he's actually coming to the bridal shower, so she goes to pick him up, and they start acting a little awkward until her father mentions, "Hey, I've been following all your cold cases online."
Oh, breaking my heart.
So obviously he's kept up on his daughter's exploits.
He's proud
as a police officer. So they have the bridal shower. Eliza, which is pretty funny, she starts this trivia contest with Wynn, who's drunk off his ass, asking all kinds of questions. And Maggie's father brings in some wine as a gift for the couple. They introduce, I guess Maggie introduces her father, and then Maggie's dad sees that, hey, there's not a picture of you on this board of pictures. So he pulls a picture out of his wallet that apparently he's kept all these years.
What a douchebag!
And puts it up there. Well, it wasn't a douchebag move then, but
it is when at the end.
Well,
it broke my heart then.
What happens is of course, like the couple starts opening presents, and then Maggie's dad gets all upset because Alex and Maggie start kissing.
Yes.
And he throws a hissy and storms out.
What did he think was going to happen? Did he think they were just going to hold hands?
Right, exactly. I don't know. Maybe he thought that they wouldn't kiss while he was there, which makes no sense. Especially at a bridal shower.
I know, it's what they do.
So, obviously Maggie isn't taking this very well, but she tells her father, she kind of realizes that, hey, you actually gave me the best gift of all, the realization that I don't need your approval anymore. I'm going to like who I want to like and marry who I want to marry, and you can
screw you, Dad.
And you could suck it. So yeah, pretty much. So she gives him back the baby picture that he put up on the wall. It's like, okay, here. I don't need your picture.
I'm not that girl anymore.
Yep. So we are donezo.
As a former little girl with a daddy, I'm like, how could Daddy do that? Hey, Daddy. Oh, it's just heartbreaking.
Did it bring up all these issues?
Yes, I'm like, Daddy, why don't you love me? Oh, I'm sorry. This is about her. Okay.
Well, maybe we need Alex to give you some encouraging words as well.
I think so.
Yeah, but I think it was good until they go back to their place, and then Alex is thinking, well, hey, maybe this might change your mind about wanting kids, until Maggie says, actually, I still don't want kids. So, yeah.
I think that's going to be what breaks them up.
I think so too, because that's kind of a big thing to overcome.
That is a big thing, right? I mean, if Alex really wants kids and Maggie really doesn't.
And if they get married and they still are in opposite feelings about it, it's only going to grow resentment in Alex because she won't have kids because of Maggie.
Right. I mean, Alex is saying, oh, that's fine, but we all know it's not fine. I just don't understand why they didn't talk about this before.
Yeah. You would think that would be a topic of conversation before the bridal shower. Just saying.
That's a big thing.
Yeah, so I'm kind of worried that their relationship's going to be poisoned right before it starts.
Well, but we know that the actress who plays Maggie is leaving.
Oh, that's true. So maybe something will happen to Maggie and it won't be an issue.
Well,
unless they break up and she transfers to another city, and then if she comes back later, she comes back later.
I think they're just going to break up because I think that's why they're setting up the whole thing with children. I think they're coming toward the breakup. I think that's what's happening.
Maybe they'll have Maggie transfer to Metropolis because in the comics she ends up as a Metropolis police officer.
Oh, well, that would make sense. Okay.
So maybe she'll become, because she heads up their special crimes unit there in Metropolis. So maybe that's what'll happen.
And she'll hook up with Lois Lane, and Superman will be like, what the heck? And Lois Lane will be like, baby, it's 2017. I have choices. That's what I want to see happen.
Somehow I don't think that's going to happen, but we'll see. You never know. You never know. We're very progressive these days, so that anything can happen. So the other main storyline, of course, is Kara and Jean on Mars. And apparently it turns out Jean's been keeping a little secret from us, but because apparently he shops at the same car dealership that Phil Coulson shops at. I
know, I can't believe that.
And of course, Phil Coulson's car is named what? Lola.
Yay! Yeah.
So I don't think Jean's car has a name, which it should. So I found a little letdown. But it transforms into this pretty badass spaceship, and so they rocket off to Mars.
Who else thought about Transformers?
Yeah, exactly.
I was thinking of the Transformers.
Yep. So, so they have they fly off, and it's there that they're told that the White Martians have this prison camp, and of course, John's father, Mirren, is one of the prisoners, which of course surprises Jean because he thought his father was dead.
Yeah. And they leave him behind. Is there a reason that they left him behind?
Actually, oh, you mean that the White Martians left him behind?
Yeah. Didn't they say that? Didn't they say they left the father behind, but they didn't realize how valuable he would be to them?
Well, I think that, I think there maybe, I don't know why they kept him. I'm not quite sure why they kept him prisoner, why they didn't just kill him, but I'm trying to remember. I think there was a reason, but I can't remember what it was, for the life of me. So apologies for that, for not remembering that.
Okay.
But eventually, Jean goes to see his father, but Jean's father doesn't quite believe he's Jean, because as far as him, my son would have stayed and got killed and got himself killed.
Wah, wah.
Yeah,
I did the sad trombone in my head when he said that. I was like, ouch.
Yeah, pretty much. So I'll do this just for you. Where's it here?
Very good.
Yep. So Jean tries to convince his father. His father isn't buying it until, of course, Kara sits him down and says, "Hey, look, he's your kid," she persuades him to give Jean a chance to prove himself. And so Jean touches his father's head. They kind of do a Martian mind meld, not a Vulcan one.
Yeah, they did too. Yeah.
And so we get this memory of seeing Jean's daughters running around the house.
Perfect.
Yep.
They tried to kill me.
Yep. So this is a bit of a tearjerker this episode. Break out how many tissue boxes rating is this? My wife
10 tissue boxes.
Yeah, my wife rates sad stuff by tissue boxes.
Yes.
And so so they have this memory, and then Mirren is like, "Oh, you are my son," and so they have this nice little reunion moment. And they fight off the White Martians, and essentially they drive them off, leaving the Resistance to kind of pick up the battle.
Yeah.
And the Resistance decides, okay, we're going to give this staff, which was used against the White Martians, because we find out that Mirren, I think the reason they kept Mirren around was because he knew where the staff was.
Yeah, that's right.
So once they got that staff, John wanted to give it over to the Resistance to fight against the White Martians. The Resistance is like, no, this might fall into the White Martians' hands. You hold on to it and take it back with you to Earth where they can't get their hands on it.
Okay.
So, and then thankfully we find out, and this kind of surprised me, Jean and Kara go back home, but they bring Mirren along.
Yes, I love that. When they opened up the top of the convertible.
Yep.
And you saw Dixon looking around.
Yep. He's just kind of like, oh, this is interesting.
This is nice for her.
So I was kind of surprised. I was like, oh, does that mean we're going to get like Carl Lumley on a regular basis? Because that would be kind of awesome.
I hope so. That would be triple awesome.
Yeah, so that kind of gets John some family he can talk with and interact with. So I kind of like that. And so we'll see where that goes. But that was kind of a nice little way to end the episode on a little bit more of an uplifting note after everything that went down with Maggie and her father.
So heartbreaking.
So yeah, it's obviously like sons and daughters and their fathers. This episode.
Yeah, that was the theme.
Yep. So I like this one a lot. But what did you think about it? Yeah.
I loved it. I mean, I was crying like a little baby girl. Yeah. It was so full, and the points they made were just so poignant and perfect. I love the parallel between John and his father and Maggie and her father. I loved it. I felt like it was a very well developed episode.
I totally agree. I gave this one I like this one a lot. I give it 8.5 out of 10 convertible spaceships.
I give it 9.5.
Oh, you really like this one?
9.5 little baby Martians who aren't alive anymore.
Oh, yeah. Well, this is why Jean has adopted Alex and Kara as his surrogate daughters.
True.
So
that's true.
Yeah, and remember, Jean is going to be walking Alex down the aisle.
Oh my God, that's another part that made me
if their wedding goes off.
If there is a wedding.
Yeah, if there is.
I want there to be a wedding just to see that, because the way Alex and John are both so stoic. They really don't show emotion, but just to see Alex, trying to wipe away the tears and saying, if you cry, I'm going to cry. It was just, it was making me cry. I was beside myself.
Yeah, it was good stuff. So, all right, so let's move on. The Flash, episode 3 of the 4th season. Luck be a lady tonight.
This was definitely one of the comedic episodes.
Yeah. The Flash seems to be trying to lighten things up after the dark 3rd season. I'm kind of a little concerned they're lightening it up a little too much, but we'll see. I'm trying to give them the benefit of the doubt here. This is written by Sam Chalson and Judalina Nira, and directed by Armin Kevorkian.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully no relation to the other Kevorkian.
I was going to say, yeah.
But so we have a new metahuman this week, Sugarlyn Beard as Hazard, a.k.a. Rebecca Sharp.
A.k.a. Becky.
A.k.a. Becky, exactly. Who is essentially like a down-on-her-luck kind of gal until, she apparently had an experience on a bus, as we find out. Mm-hmm. That was affected by dark matter resulting from Barry returning from the Speed Force. Now,
and I'll say something about that. Yes, okay, I like that they're opening up all these stories by making like 40 new metahumans, but they're lucky that only one metahuman surfaces per week.
Right.
Because it would be really rough if all the metahumans started at during the same episode.
That's kind of what I'm wondering. I was like, well, why don't they just all appear at once? If
Nope,
they all
one
get
a week,
their
that's all.
powers at once, you would think there would be this mass chaos. But I
Nope,
guess
they're taking turns. They must have a sign-up list somewhere.
exactly. Yeah, like I should have like something at Star Labs, like one of those things at the meat counter. Now
They take a
serving
number.
supervillain number 2.
Becky.
Yep. Yeah. So we get Hazard, and she is a villain from DC Comics Infinity Incorporated comic.
Didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, and she was a member of like kind of their opposite group, their enemies, the Injustice Unlimited, and so she's like essentially like like she was created during the 80s, and she's adapted here for the first time on live action. So we find out that that presumably Barry leaving the Speed Force caused this, as when a bus went through. Now, Cisco tried to give Barry some heat for this. Well, that the fact that it wasn't Barry's fault. Barry didn't ask to come back, y'all.
He said he wanted to stay in the Speed Force.
Right,
he was being a martyr.
So for the record, it was Cisco's fault.
It was Cisco. Yeah, he's the one who did it. He knew he was playing with danger.
Right, yeah, and he was just like, no, I'm going to get Barry back, and he hadn't really considered all the consequences of such decision. Even after we find out in this episode, hey, he consulted Harry Wells about it, and Harry's just like, hey, idiot, this
don't do it.
Don't do it. And of course he went ahead and did it. Now Barry's back, great, but don't try to be throwing Barry under the bus. This is not, like, hashtag stop blaming Barry, okay?
He was just being himself in the Speed Force, being all crazy and beautiful mindish.
Yeah. So I'm tired of Barry getting all this crap for everything bad that goes on this show. I think it's getting a little unfair. That's just a personal rant from me. So eventually they find out that her powers are essentially affecting more and more of the Central City area, to the point where she's bringing down planes as she's sitting in a slot machine. So her good luck causes everybody else to have bad luck. It's this. Yep. She affects these probability fields. And is what they like the nice physics term quantum entanglement gets thrown out a lot here, for you science buffs. And so they end up confronting her at a casino to stop her. But of course, Barry slips on some quarters. Wah, wah. And ends up handcuffing himself.
Did he handcuff him? Yes, that was funny. That made me laugh.
So, but eventually they figure out a way to. They decide to, like, okay, let's just. Harry suggests that they let the particle accelerator, which is starting to kind of take off on its own. Harry convinces them to, hey, just let it happen, which everybody kind of like gives him the side eye, going, wait, what?
What?
And so he does that, and the blast apparently negates Hazard's powers, and this gives them the opportunity to arrest her and take her into custody. So essentially, Harry saves the day on this one.
I did like the way she was like, is there any chance you won't arrest me? And they're like,
nope, pretty much. Well, Barry did try to talk to her and say, hey, look, you might want to, come on in and, we'll figure this out. And she's just like, what did she say? Nope, toodles. Which that word toodles, so that should automatically get you thrown in prison just for using the word toodles, all snotty like that. So, yeah. So she had it coming. But, and then we had Joe and Cecile essentially figuring out that Joe is living in a money pit.
Yeah.
And his house is kind of all of a sudden falling apart out of nowhere. They apparently they have broken pipes that are going to cost like 15 G's. 15 large, and Cecile's like, hey, we could put the money on a down payment on a new house and you can move. And Joe's like, but this is my house. This is my history. This is where like Iris and Barry's height is marked on the wall here. So
I'm glad they decided not to sell it. I think that would have been a bad idea because that is their history, and I think it's
Right.
important to all of them. I mean, Barry didn't have a great childhood, so I think it's important that they have that house where,
Yeah.
he finally felt, the love that he needed.
Well, Cecile kind of messes with Joe a little bit in this one because she spends most of the episode trying to get him to come around. He finally
Hmm.
comes around at the end of the episode, and he says, "Okay, I'm okay with you selling the house." And then Cecile is all, "Well, actually, I've changed my mind because I'm pregnant."
I know.
Dun
I'm
dun
like,
dun.
da da da. It's like, uh-oh,
Yep. So
man,
apparently Joe still got it.
you still got it going
He
on.
still got it. So
And okay, I say this a lot, but it's still kind of creepy because both Iris and Barry are going to be the brother and sister.
right,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
they were foster brother and sister because
but still,
yeah, I know.
but still, the dad calls Barry his son. He
Yeah.
says it over and over, his son, and it's just creepy.
Well, it's
I'm not saying they shouldn't get married. It's just
right.
creepy.
Yeah, it's not like a blood issue here thing. They're not blood relatives.
It's just weird.
But yeah, it is kind of weird that he grew up and yeah, that had to be a little awkward.
Yeah,
That was my only problem, but unfortunately like okay, how else are you going to get Barry and Iris together because they're supposed to be together. So
Yeah.
you've kind of established this from the get-go and now we have to just kind of like tune it out and try to pretend it didn't happen.
Yeah, they basically grew up brother and sister, but it's okay.
Yeah, we're just not gonna dwell on that. We're not gonna talk about that. Yeah.
We're just not gonna. That's ancient history.
Yeah, we're just trying to ignore that. So and Wally, we find out this episode, is essentially he gets kicked to the curb by Jesse.
That was sad.
So instead of instead of like a Dear John letter, he gets the Dear Wally cube that
From her father.
that's delivered by her father. And of course, oh, hey, her father has to relay the message, including the fact that, oh, by the way, Wally was Jesse's first.
Oh man, I must have blanked out during
Yeah,
that.
you might want
I
to
didn't
watch that
remember.
again because that's all kinds of awkward.
That is awkward. It's like, oh no, 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 no.
But yeah,
Poor
apparently,
Wally.
so Harry tells Wally that Jesse was her first, and she wants to focus on her own life.
No.
And so, so he tries to talk. We find out that apparently, while everybody's off busy with Hazard, Wally snuck off to Earth 2 to try to hash things out with Jesse, but nobody missed him because
That's sad.
he's apparently that forgettable.
That's sad.
Yeah, it was. So he's decided, okay, since nobody missed me, I'm going to go stay with a friend in Blue Valley,
He's basically run away.
which is Wally West's hometown in the comics. The redheaded,
Oh, I didn't know that.
the redheaded
Okay.
Wally West. Yeah,
The different character.
yeah. So they're kind of doing a little homage there with Kid Flash and Blue Valley. So he says goodbye. So we wrote Wally out of the series, which is kind of okay because that focuses things more on Barry
Yeah, I will say
being the only speedster again.
that makes sense because they do have a bit too many characters. This is one of the issues I have with Arrow. I think they have too many characters. So it probably is good.
I think it's good, like if you had like a 2-part big season finale episode, but you don't want them to stay around.
Yeah.
And I think that was kind of the problem they had with Wally because it's like, well, hey, it's cool to have like a younger speedster around as Kid Flash because you want Flash and Kid Flash, but then it's just like, well, too many speedsters.
What do we do with him?
Yeah, what
he
do we
just
do
kind
with
of hangs out.
Yeah, and that's kind of like, what do we do with Wally because Barry's back now, so yeah, I think they just had to kind of deal with that. So, all right, anything else about this episode you want to talk about?
I thought it was funny. It may be a little bit too slapstick. I think it's nice to have this sort of amusing episode once in a while, but if they keep this trajectory, it could get too silly.
Yeah, I totally agree. All right, so let's move on. Oh, wait, ratings. My rating out of this one, I thought this one was okay. Nothing special, but it wasn't horrible. I gave it 8 out of 10 Samuroid helmets because we found out at the end that, oh, hey, the Thinker, the big bad of the season, has been watching everything that's going on in Star Labs through that Samuroid helmet they decided to keep as a
forgot about
souvenir.
that.
So, yeah.
Oh, and that reminds me, his friend, the lady, I don't remember her name.
They call her they call her the mechanic.
The mechanic.
Yeah.
Did you ever watch Dominion
No, I didn't.
on Sci-Fi? She was
No.
on that.
Okay.
She played. Yeah, she was really cool.
Okay, that's cool. I didn't know. I hadn't caught that, but that's interesting. No, I didn't know that. So that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
I know Dominion. I've seen commercials for it, but I just never watched the show. So that's cool. All right, let's move on. Legends of Tomorrow, episode 3 of the 3rd season.
Yeah.
Zari, and written by James Egan and Ray Utarnichit, directed by Mersey Almus. And this is the introduction of presumably a new team member, Zari. Zari Adriana Tomaz, and played by actress Talia Ash. And so we kind of were introduced where there is a prisoner that apparently let's see. The legends end up in what's Seattle 2042, which is now apparently a police state with Argus.
For Argus.
Yeah, Argus is apparently large and in charge of implementing martial law. And they find Gary, Gary from accounting apparently.
Weeb.
And he fills them in that he sent this code 99 for them. And apparently there's a metahuman that's there who's able to turn into water and not afraid to kill anyone. And that's apparently this character named Kuasa, who, if you saw the Vixen CW Seed series...
I haven't, but I want to.
But apparently Kuasa is Vixen's sister.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so you might want to check out the CW Seed series, get a little background for this character, because here she is in live action here. And so apparently they figure out that Kuasa's goal was to kill this prisoner, and Gary was supposed to stop the murder, but he was unable to do so. And so they figure out the prisoner's location, and the prisoner, it turns out to be Zari. And just as an Argus drone flies in, just as they're confronting her, and so they find out at that point that all metahumans were outlawed in 2021, and they're essentially wanted now by the Argus agents.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, there is a fight, and Zari apparently escapes during the scuffle. So they eventually they find her later at a bar, confront her. But, of course, Kuasa shows up. And we get Sarah and Mick get to have another bar fight.
Yes, I love that.
Which their bar fights are always fun to watch. I think this is what the third bar fight they've had. Like they had one, and then they had another one in the Old West or something, and then they had this one. So it's always great to see those two in a bar fight. And so I'm all for seeing more of that. And so they apparently they want to use Zari as bait to capture Kuasa, and Zari's like, okay, I'll help on the condition that you help break my brother out of prison that Argus is holding him in. Turns out, though, that Zari wasn't trying to find her brother. It was actually, she wanted to commit this heist to get an amulet.
Mm-hmm.
And Zari uses this amulet. Essentially, she's able to create a tornado outside, and that helps her escape once again. And so they essentially, they're trying to figure out what to do with her. They want to put her back in prison, or Sarah wants to put her back in prison, but Jax isn't quite so sure on that one. So they have a little conflict here.
Well, he probably thinks she's hot.
Well, there's that probably too, but but I think that he also didn't like that Argus. He doesn't trust Argus.
I wouldn't either.
Yeah, exactly. So Ray catches up to Zari, And apparently, Zari was at a rendezvous point where she was supposed to actually meet her brother, but the rendezvous point was completely torched, and everybody there was presumed dead. And Kuasa shows up at that point, and I guess there's a conflict there because at the same time, the legends find out that Gary from accounting called Agent Sharp, and who apparently Agent Sharp still has this really like crazy vendetta or something against the legends.
She hates them.
Yeah. So obviously there's major friction between Agent Sharp and Sarah. And I have to wonder if those two are going to hook up at some point.
I think there's friction not just because of hatred, but because of something else.
Yeah,
too.
so something's going on there. So we're gonna find out that the legends killed her father or something. There's something more going on there that we don't know. Let's see. We get a Ray and Kuasa fight. Kuasa overpowers Ray, almost drowns him. Until Zari shows up, and then Zari asks Kuasa what she's after. Kuasa says, "I want your amulet." And Zari refuses to hand it over, and they kind of fight until Zari and Ray are able to escape together. And so Kuasa catches up with them, though, but of course then the legends show up, and essentially Amaya has this feeling that her totem, the Tantu totem, and Zari's amulet are connected somehow. So Amaya takes control of her totem, stops Kuasa, and I guess she teleports away somehow. So now, meanwhile, though, throughout this episode, we had Nate kind of stoned off of this, I want to say this concoction that he came up with to try to help Amaya with her visions.
Yeah.
And he ended up, of course, is essentially stoned and has to pilot a ship while stoned and all this. So there's that comedic stuff going on there. And, we essentially they decide, well, okay, we want to drop Zari off in 2042. And Amaya hurries off the ship because she convinces Zari that their two amulets are connected somehow, and Zari agrees to join the team to figure out what the deal is with their amulets, I guess. So, it's kind of long-winded, I know, but there's a lot going on there. So,
there was a sad trombone moment that I loved when Nate was talking to Amara, and Amara said, "I was going to go back to 1942, but I realized that there's someone here who my life is intertwined with." And you saw Nate get that me look.
Yeah.
And she went, yeah. And then she said the other woman. And Nate was like, oh, okay. Poor Nate.
Yeah. Well, Nate hasn't been doing too well this season. So he's still not...
He needs to get...
Yeah, he kind of needs to get over Amaya, I think, a little bit.
Yeah.
So we kind of leave this episode with, in 1988, with a cliffhanger where we see a kid being bullied, hiding out in the sewer pipe, and there's something inside there. There's like some kind of animal or something. The boy reaches out and says, "Oh, by the way, my name's Ray Palmer."
I know.
So young Ray Palmer getting himself in danger. So of course we'll have to save young Ray Palmer.
Yeah.
And we'll find out what happens with that
maybe,
next week.
Maybe that's going to be their Stranger Things episode.
That's what
1980s.
Yeah. It seems perfect. Which I'm 4 episodes into season 2 on that, but it's
I haven't started yet.
It's so
but I will.
good. It's good. It picks up just as good as it was season 1. So you're in for a treat.
Good.
So yeah, definitely worth it. This one was okay. Again, it's not another special episode not especially special, but I liked it. 8 out of 10 Argus drones for me on this one.
I'll give it 8. I liked it. It's not the best because I wasn't all that into the 2042 storyline.
Right.
It wasn't as engaging as some episodes, but it was still good.
Yep. Okay, so our next episode, lots of CW shows, of course. Episode 3 of the 6th season, Next of Kin, written by Speedweed, which I think is a hilarious name,
I love that name.
and Oscar Balderrama, directed by Kevin Tancherowin. And this episode, we kind of pick up with Oliver having made the decision to give up being Green Arrow, turning things over to Diggle. Yeah. Now, as I understand it, you kind of bailed on Arrow.
Yeah, I just
Which I totally get.
Huh?
I totally get that, by the way.
There are a few reasons. I didn't like the way they were writing Felicity.
Right.
She was coming off as a crybaby, and that's the writer's fault, not the actress's fault. I didn't like that.
Right.
I didn't like the Oliver as mayor storyline because I don't understand the point. He's the Green Arrow. Just let him be the damn Green Arrow.
Right.
And I didn't like. I like Mr. Terrific, but the other new guy,
Wild Dog.
Wild Dog.
Yeah.
I liked the actor because he used to be on Reaper, and I loved Reaper.
Yeah, he was great on Reaper. I love that show.
I love that show, but he in Arrow, he's kind of comes off as a brat.
Yeah.
I just don't like his character in that, so I bailed. But I've been meaning to pick it up again because people are saying it's better and all that stuff, and so I watched this past episode.
Right. So what did you think after watching this episode? Do you think it's worth checking in again, or not so much?
I remember another thing I didn't like is I didn't like they brought in a different Black Canary. Now I understand she is Dinah Drake. Right. I get that, but I had always been of the fan theory that Laurel's mom, whose name was Dinah, had been Dinah Drake. That had been like her maiden name.
Right.
So I was very sad that theory had been dispelled. Yeah. That was another reason.
Yeah, who was played, of course, by Alex Kingston, who played River Song on Doctor Who.
In Doctor Who, yeah. So I was disappointed that they poo-pooed that fan theory. Yeah. But anyway,
But we have a younger Black Canary doing it this way.
Yeah. So I mean,
and not so much hair.
Definitely not as much hair. Her hair's a little bit straighter, and she's a cop now.
Right.
And so it actually makes sense. I still, I'm kind of give a little side eye because I don't like this Black Canary.
Right.
But it makes sense. She's a cop, so she can kind of tune them into what's going on by, eavesdropping on what's happening with the cop stuff. I feel like we should have already been done with the, vigilantes are bad, vigilantes are good.
Yeah.
The cops don't like vigilantes. I feel like we should have been done with that a few seasons ago. So I feel like they're kind of beating that to death.
It does seem like, they seem to be, that, well, I mean, they try to explain it with like everything that went down last season, but it does seem like we're recycling that storyline over again. It's like, let's move forward, okay?
Because we did that with Quentin. Quentin was the anti-vigilante person a few years ago. It's like we've already done this. Now we've just got a new cop in Quentin's place.
Yeah, exactly. Only now it's an FBI agent that's gunning for Oliver for some reason. It's like she's so fixated that he's probably really the Green Arrow. So
she's right.
So yeah. Because it does seem a little odd that Oliver keeps getting outed as Green Arrow and nothing seems to be happening as a result. Somehow he always gets away with it, but you would think after a while people would be like, "Oh, he's probably Green Arrow." Yeah,
we know he's Green Arrow.
Exactly. So, this the big villain of the week here is this character named Onyx, who is essentially trying to locate members of this special ops group that she used to belong to, and she's trying to take them out. Mm-hmm. She's not much of a villain, in my opinion, so we probably don't need to talk about her so much. But
the thing that struck me, is it just me, or does she look like Jada Smith? Jada Pinkett Smith?
Yeah, Fish Mooney on Gotham, yeah.
Yeah,
A little
I
bit.
think,
A little bit.
yeah. And so I kept getting Gotham vibes with her, I think our ride's here, so I can't really stay on too much longer.
Okay. All right. If you need to
Uh,
go, that's fine.
well, we can talk, what, maybe about 5 more minutes, or
It's up to you.
you're
Uh,
just staring and at me. All right, about 5 more minutes.
Okay. All right. All right. So let's finish up Arrow, then we'll let you go. All
Okay.
right. So we had this fight between Team Arrow and Onyx. Diggle initially he's hesitant once again because he had received essentially like this nerve damage, but now he just kind of zones out a little bit. Now here he eventually overcomes this and becomes an effective leader in the field once he gets, I think, some confidence. But then at the end of the episode, we find out, oh, hey, Diggle's like
He's doping.
he's apparently doing some back alley drug deal.
He's Lance Armstrong.
He's shooting up with, yeah, exactly. Well, with this some kind of chemical to keep the tremors in his hand from firing. Now,
I was very disappointed.
Yeah. Now he does get this new device, a new spiffy crossbow thing from Mr. Terrific and Felicity.
Mm-hmm.
My question though is, if he couldn't handle a gun, and I asked this last time, okay, so if he can't handle a gun, how can he fire a crossbow? But if we find out, hey, he's okay because he's shooting up.
Yeah, that's the only reason he doesn't have the tremor is he's shooting up some kind of drugs.
But and my question, because they made this point that last week he couldn't fire his gun and shoot people.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you have two hands, right? So if you're right-handed, you're having problems with your right hand, could you not shoot with your left hand?
I couldn't. Well, I can't shoot anyways. I've never operated a gun. But
you can at least fire in someone's general direction, right?
I guess maybe. When I try to do things with my left hand, though, I tend to try to do it opposite.
Right. But you could practice with it, is my point.
I guess you'd have to do a lot of practicing.
Yeah. So I just kind of wonder why he couldn't just fire a weapon with his other hand, but
because he can shoot up.
Yes, yeah. But instead, let's just make him a drug addict, and we'll see where that goes. Let's see what else. We had Felicity essentially coming over to help Oliver's son William with his math homework.
Yeah.
And Oliver kind of watches how this plays out and decides, well, hey, I guess I don't have to keep my life with you, Felicity, separate from my life with William. So, hey, how about here's the key to my apartment again. And so Oliver seems to be willing to integrate both worlds on this. So, did you like seeing Oliver kind of getting closer again with Felicity? Or are you tired of their relationship? Tired of the Felicity shippers?
Well, I like them together, but part of the reason why I stopped watching is because I thought they were writing Felicity to be very unfair.
Right.
She was basically saying it's William or me, and how dare you not tell me about William when it's his business and it's his son. So I didn't like all that. That's the reason I stopped. But if they're going to have them together, which is great, they need to stay together. I'm tired of this. They're apart. They're together. They're apart together. It's too much of a soap opera.
Yeah, it is. It's either get together already or just call it quits for good.
Right.
Yep.
It's one or the other, but this isn't a soap opera.
Yeah.
It's not supposed to be anyway.
Well, it is on the CW, and they love their soap operas, apparently.
I guess so.
All right. So, and then we had the other big development this episode is that anti-vigilante legislation that the city council was going to pass. Oliver essentially says, sorry, I'm invoking this obscure rule, and I'm going to put it up to a public vote, and we're going to let the public decide it.
That might bite him in the butt.
Yeah, which eventually is as I think Diggle pointed out, was like a stay of execution, essentially.
Yeah.
So we had that. And anything else about this episode that you want to talk about?
Well, so I haven't watched in a while. What happened to Thea?
Thea essentially ended up in a coma. Well, at the end of the episode, there was all these explosions on the island, Leanne Yu, when the big bad Prometheus detonated all this.
Oh, I got tired of him too. That's why I stopped watching.
Yeah.
Stupid district attorney. I'm like, I don't care about the district attorney.
Essentially what he does, he gets everybody on Leanne Yu and rigs the place to explode. So all this explosions go off. Thea ended up in a coma.
Aww.
So she's in a coma.
Oh, boo. It is a soap opera.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh.
Pretty much, yeah. So it's just like all you have to do is just wait for somebody to, get possessed by aliens, or somebody's pregnant by somebody else, and just.
Well, we already have that. He has a son he didn't know about, so
it's an era novella.
Yeah, that's good. I like that era novella.
You like that? You can use that if you want.
Era
novella.
Era novella.
All right, so I'm going to give this one 8 out of 10 impaled tennis balls, because those poor tennis balls get punctured by Diggle's new crossbow weapon. What did you think about this episode? What's your rating?
Well, it still has a lot of the problems that stopped me from watching before, but it's an improvement from what I was seeing, a year or two ago.
Okay.
I will give it 7.
Okay, that's fair.
7 shaky, doped up arms.
Yeah, that sounds good. So I know you have to go, but before you go, why don't you tell everybody out there in podcast land where they can find you on the interwebs? Feel free to plug away.
You can find me so many different places, and unfortunately, some of them are not updated because I've been going through some stuff lately.
Right.
But if you want to live tweet with me, I live tweet at Scannerdrome.
Right.
Actually, the Twitter is at Scannerdrome Mag.
Okay.
But I'm also at Lola Lariscy.
Right.
That's Larscy, and I have my own website, lolalariscy.com.
Please go there and check that out. Because
I
did check it out, and you have a book of yours, as I recall.
I do. It's called Trudy Lim's Spaceship Captain Earth Detective. It is available for digital download from Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, all kinds of places. I haven't learned how to do print copies yet, so one day I would like to do that.
That's okay.
And I've been working.
I'm pretty impressed because I'm working on my own novel, so I'm very impressed by your accomplishment there.
Thank you. Well, if you need any pointers, just let me know.
I might just take you up on that because I'm going to be I'm working on mine as well. So hopefully I can get that finished up. I'm hoping to use the Christmas holiday season to really finish it up.
That's good. If you have some extra time, that's a good time to do it.
That's what I'm hoping. Unfortunately, that work thing keeps getting in the way, of course.
I hate that. I hate having to pay bills.
Stupid work and having to make money and to live.
We hate them.
Yeah, so anything else you want to plug before we sadly say goodbye to you?
That's all. I've been working on my second book for years now, and unfortunately it's just totally fallen by the wayside, but I hope to get that back. And also we do live video shows. Scannerdrome does live video shows on YouTube every 2 weeks. We had one last night. I wasn't on it, but I just I typed in every once in a while my responses. So that's YouTube around 6:30 or 7. So look for a Scannerdrome.
Please do. And Lola, it was awesome to have you back. We love having you on this podcast. I'm sad that Karen couldn't be here to talk with you.
I am too.
So please come on back when Karen's available, and because I'm sure she would love to we could, for all three of us, when you have more time, obviously, to talk about these shows. So just drop us a line whenever you're in the mood, and we'd love to have you back anytime.
Okay.
You are always welcome.
And vice versa. If you ever want to come on Scannerdrome,
I would love it. Just name the day. I'll be there.
All right. Next time.
Yep. I think it's only fair that unfortunately I have to bring your show down. You raise ours up.
No.
I bring yours down.
I think it'll be awesome. It would give us more voices and someone else I can talk about CW shows with.
There you go.
So
we'll
take it over.
Yeah, there you go. So you'll have someone you can bond over the CW TV shows with. That sounds like an awesome idea. I'm all for it. So just drop me a line whenever. I'd love that. I think that would be great.
I would definitely.
All right. And my best to your mother, and
Thank you.
My best to you, obviously. And I hope you have a nice dinner that you're off to.
Thank you.
Your boyfriend's making some dinner, as I understand it.
Well, no, we're going out. Clint, his mother came to town specifically to help me pack
Right.
my mother's stuff, so we're all going out for a family dinner.
That is excellent. Excellent. I hope you enjoy.
Thank you very
All
much.
right. You take care, and thanks
All
again.
right. You're welcome. You have a wonderful night.
You too, Lola. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right. Okay, so with Lola sadly having to leave us, I'm kind of left by myself here to finish up our last show. So let's talk about Gotham, episode 6 of the 4th season, Hog Day Afternoon, written by Kim Newton and directed by Mark Tonderai. And this is the introduction of Professor Pig, played by Michael Cerveris. And this is Professor Pig was a villain that was pretty recently created by Grant Morrison during his run on Batman. And he's essentially kind of a very disturbed individual, as you could probably tell by watching this episode, who has a fondness for doing rather awkward bits of surgery and butchery. And so it was interesting to see him here on Gotham. We have Jim and Harvey investigating these murders where like a cop's head has been covered by a pig's head, and apparently this guy was rumored to be the Penguin's bagman inside the GCPD, and apparently the butcher, who we later find out is Professor Pig, is going around killing all of these guys with connections to the Penguin and all these dirty cops. And so they eventually track Professor Pig down, and that Jim, of course, ends up essentially Harvey and Jim arrive at a factory. They find the officer sitting on a chair alive with a pig's head over his own. They remove the mask, but guess what? There's a pin inside, and that pulls the pin out of the grenade that was lodged in his stomach. And apparently Jim and Harvey just get out just as the guy explodes. But Jim ends up wake up tied to a chair again and confronts Professor Pig, who's wearing his pig mask, and he calls Harvey a dirty pig and explains to Jim that he's only killing dirty cops. And Pig apparently wants to rid Gotham of the Gotham City Police Department's corruption, and telling Jim, hey, you're just like me, we want the same thing, to get rid of all the dirty cops. So I'm going to butcher every single swine on the Penguin's payroll. And of course, he tells Jim that he suffered a profound loss at the hands of those in power. But just as Jim tries to help him, the Professor Pig gets a hold of Harvey and tells Harvey he deserves this, and then slits Harvey's throat before running away. So Jim, of course, has to tend to his partner as Professor Pig escapes. So we'll see where that goes. Just obviously, I enjoyed seeing Professor Pig here, who last we see is reciting a nursery rhyme while he's feeding a group of pigs, and says, "Tomorrow the axe shall fall." So we'll see where that goes. I enjoyed this episode a lot. I liked seeing Professor Pig being really creepy. Being a really creepier villain than normal on Gotham. I give it 8.5 out of 10 creepy pig heads. So I thought this was really great, and we'll see where that goes next week. So that about does it for our shows for this week, but we do have some Justina feedback, so I'll read that really quickly. Justina writes in and says, I am super impressed with Supergirl continuing their realistic LGBT storylines, and the stuff on Mars was fantastic. 9 shape-shifting spaceships. I wonder if the Thinker can influence metahumans and make them do his will, as he made Jesse break up with Wally to leave Central City weaker. So for the Flash, she gives 1 speedster short 8 breakup cubes. So she gives it 8 breakup cubes. She says for Legends of Tomorrow, she says, I wonder how the Water Witch is related to Amaya, and whether killing her will affect Mari being born. Perhaps they can deactivate the Weather Witch by stealing her totem, similar to how Damien Dark was defeated, and not actually kill her. She gives Legends 8 Atom Tails. And as for Arrow, she says, I am glad they are showing that nerve damage is permanent and John is not automatically cured. Whatever he is shooting himself up with probably had interesting consequences. So she says the crossbow is awesome, and Oliver gave Felicity a key. Oh, my happy Felicity heart. She gives Arrow 8 Monte Cristo sandwiches. As for Gotham, she says, OMG, I am scared of Professor Pig. Couldn't finish the episode, but it gets a 10 for being creepy. And as for The Gifted, she gives that one 10 surgical pins for 1 awesome escape. Have a super week. So thanks, Justina, and you have a super week as well. We'll see what happens. And thanks again for all the great feedback you do, Justina. We really appreciate it here on the Phantom Zone. So, if you want to be just like Justina, you can write into the Phantom Zone podcast at phantomzonecast@gmail.com, or you can reach us on the Twitter machine at phantomzonecast, or, you can also reach us on our little Facebook page called the Phantom Zone Podcast. That would be great. We would definitely appreciate all the likes and follows we can get. And hopefully Karen will be back with us next week, so everybody just relax. I know this is a little weird, hearing just me at the end. But thanks to everybody for listening, and thanks again to Lola Lariscy for helping us out. As for me, you can reach me on the Twitter machine at Charles Skaggs, or at Charles Skaggs on the Instagram. Or you can reach me on the Facebook, Charles Skaggs, or Google Plus for all you crazy kids on the Google Plus. Shout out to Karen. And, of course, my blog of geeky things.
Damn good coffee. And hot.
Damn good coffee and hot, where I talk about all the comic book shows that we cover here on the Phantom Zone podcast. And Lord Almighty, there are a lot. So, please check me out there, where I also have all kinds of comic book, sci-fi, TV, and movie news to share with all of you, and sharing my love of comics and comics on television. So please check that out. I would definitely appreciate it. Otherwise, that will about do it. And thanks again for everybody for listening. And please come on back next time for, oh geez, I can't believe this already, episode 121 of the Phantom Zone podcast. So thanks again, and we'll see you next week right here, Phantom Zone podcast. Bye, everyone.